Hi everyone, this is Cheryl and welcome to my sewing room. I'm going to demonstrate how to take this basic hourglass block and turn it into this star block. It's called the disappearing hourglass. So let's get started. To make this block you need two 10-inch squares, one light and one dark. Bring the front sides together, line up your edges, and on all four sides stitch 1/4 inch seam. After stitching, then press all of your edges with your iron. If you have a small cutting mat or one of these mats that turn like this next step will be easier for you. What you're going to do is place your ruler from corner to corner this way and cut, and then go this way and cut. And you don't want to move your block after the first cut. So you want to make sure it's all straight, and then go ahead and cut this way. Then turn your mat and cut the other way. Line it up corner to corner and then cut. Place the darkest side up and then open your blocks, and you're going to press this seam towards the darkest side. So go ahead and press and do all of your blocks this way. Cut all of the little tails off your block. Then place the blocks in this order. Now you see your hourglass shape right here. So to stitch these two together, 1/4 inch seam, and these two together, 1/4 inch seam. After stitching, you want to press this center seam here. Make sure they're pressed going in the opposite direction. Then bring them on top of each other. You want to match the seam, and again verify that the seam on the bottom is going in the opposite direction than the seam on top. Now I like to place a pin to hold that seam together so that nothing slips around while stitching. And then go ahead and stitch 1/4 inch along this side here. After you have stitched this last center seam, make sure you press your seam on the back side, and when you turn it over on the top, you want to make sure you're pushing this center seam all in one direction and it's not all going in different directions. Now my block came out to kind of a rough 13 inches square. So I'm going to try to clean it up and make it 13 inches. So on this ruler, now I have a large, extra large ruler. This is a 15-inch square ruler. So it's really great when you're working with blocks that are more than 12.5 inches square. But you can use the lines on your mat. So either use the lines or a large ruler. So I'm going to place my 6.5 inch line right on this center seam. And then the 6.5 inch line going across this way, I'm going to place on the center seam going here. I'm going to try to get it as straight as possible. Like I said, it's a little jagged. It's not going to be perfect. It's kind of hard. And once you have it lined up, and I'm almost there, then you want to cut anything that's sticking out on this side here, and then anything on this side here. Then you want to turn this block, take this corner and bring it over here. Turn it and place the 6.5 inch line on the center again, going this way and that way. Okay, always take your time when you're squaring blocks because it can sure mess you up if it's not squared. And I have a little bit sticking out over here, and then over here. So always take the time to square this finished block. I'm going to divide this block into approximately 4 1/4 inches wide. Now it might be off just slightly on one section, but you want to basically divide this block into 3s. So I'm putting my 2 1/8 inch line right on my center seam, right here. And so always take your time lining these things up and cut. Then I'm going to turn my block, and I'm using my little rotating cutting mat because I really love this when you're doing blocks like this. Now I'm going to put my 2 1/8 inch line on this center line again. So 2 1/8 inch. And cut. Now turn your mat just one side. Now I'm going to do cuts going this way. Now don't move your block pieces, leave them exactly where they are. So put my 2 1/8 inch line here. Again, taking your time lining it up, and cut. And now I'm going to rotate it all the way around so I can cut this other side. Put my 2 1/8 inch line on there. And then do your last cut. Now we're going to turn the block. So you're going to take the center one from each row and flip it. And one more. There we go. And this one. Alright, so now it should look like this. And this is a fun little pattern too when you look at it like this. But now we're going to take the outer corners and turn those. So take them and flip them. And one more. Last block to turn is this center one. So you're going to turn it so the blue and the yellow touch each other all the way around. And now you can see your star pattern. Isn't that cool? Next step is to stitch each row together at a time. So stitch this row together using 1 1/4 seam, and then here and then here. Before you stitch the 3 rows together, make sure the seams in the center row are going in the opposite direction of this row and this row. Then you bring the rows together, match your seams and verify they're in the opposite direction. Then of course stitch 1/4 inch along that edge and then stitch this row on. Then press your seams on the back side and then press on top, and make sure you push your seams all in one direction and not one seam is halfway in one direction and halfway in the other. This way the block lays nice and smooth. You're probably going to need to square it one more time. As I measured my block to see what it was a jagged 12 1/4 inches. So I'm going to square it to an even 12 inches because if I'm putting it into a quilt, all of the blocks need to be at the same size. So you want to make sure you measure your block and determine what your size is going to be. So I'm going to put the 6 inch line on my center seam here and the other 6 inch line on my center seam here. Now I have to kind of fudge a little bit because like I said, it's a little jagged. Whenever you have this many pieces stitched together, your fabric is going to stretch as you're working with it. So often your blocks are going to be a little off. So you need to be aware of that when you are making a quilt. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this side off. And then I'm going to go and trim this side off. Let me go through it again. I think my blade's getting a little dull. There we go. Now that I've trimmed those two sides off, I'm going to turn my block, take this corner and bring it over there. And now I'm going to put my 12-inch line on my ruler on the two finished edges that are here and down here. And that's how I'm going to get my final squaring. And I do have a little bit to trim off on these two edges. And then I'm going to go over here. If you are interested in learning how to do other quilt blocks, go to the green screen at the end of this video and click on the links. If you need instruction on how to put quilt binding on your project, there will be a link on the green screen that says quilt binding. For instance, this is called flange quilt binding, and it gives you the choice of putting on any color that you like along with your basic binding. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please click on thumbs up and don't forget to click on share to share this video with your friends. And if you haven't subscribed yet, click on that red subscribe button down there in the lower right hand corner of your screen. Enter your email address. Click on that little bell so you receive email notifications about my latest video. I'm Cheryl, and I'm so glad you came to my sewing room. See you next time, and happy sewing!